This is All Things Ansys, a podcast from the technical support staff at PADT. Episode 105, catching up on some news going on in the Ansys world. Greetings all, I'm Eric Miller, one of the owners at PADT and your host for this podcast. Here we are in February, hard to believe. We're into the second month of 2022, and I don't know about you guys, but I was very excited about at 2022, and I'll be even more excited for 2022. Yeah, I'm an engineer. But anyway, welcome to the podcast. This one's going to be a little bit different here. I'll explain why in a second, but want to just thank everybody for attending and being part of these podcasts. Here we are coming up on 2 years in the pandemic, and we hope that this has been one of the little things that have helped you get through all of it over what's now been close to 2 years. Speaking of February and being warmer here, it's been cold around the country, so I hope those of you who are listening in other countries or in other parts of the U.S. have not had too bad of a winter. Our sales team was able to head out to Washington, D.C. to attend the Ansys sales kickoff. Every year, Ansys gets their sales team from around the world together. Virtually the last couple of years, this was a hybrid event. Mostly, most people were virtual, but some were able to make it to Washington, D.C., to a very large hotel with lots of good facilities and testing and all that stuff going on. So it was a safe event and a great event. Our sales team was able to meet with a lot of the sales and technical folks. This is the best time of the year to do that, and it was good fun. I didn't go this year. We sent instead Ted Harris, who's been on this podcast many times, as well as our new VP of Sales, Jim Sanford. So he's going to be going to those things more often than I am these days. So although I miss meeting all the technical stuff, folks, I don't miss the travel. I don't miss the long meetings, and I don't miss the cold weather that they usually hold it in. So more power to them. But one thing I do want to mention is a little bit of a shout out to our sales team for winning an award for the most new business in 2021 for Ansys Channel Partner. And why that matters is new business means new customers, new people using Ansys. And as evangelists and believers in this technology and the use of simulation to drive design, nothing is a better really measure of how well we're doing getting more people on board than having a big year for new business. So I want to thank the sales team across the board, as well as the technical team who really help support these efforts for making that happen. It's good stuff. This episode's a little bit different. We had an interview scheduled Friday afternoon, but it turned out a bunch of people had meetings. Some customers are calling with some difficult technical support issues. Not a lot of people could make the meeting. We were going to talk about 2022 R1, which was just released. And we realized, actually, that the few people that could show up, that we had covered this quite a bit in the last podcast. So we decided, why beat a dead horse? We're going to cover some of the features in more detail. We talk about specific products. So we just went ahead and skipped the interview and sent everybody back to answering phone calls and emails. And we're going to have a little bit of different podcast here where I'm going to look at some important things in the news that I think are worth sharing and focusing on without an interview. And the first of those is that you may have seen this, you may have not even paid attention to it, but it's kind of a big deal. Ansys is partnering with Amazon. And Ansys has been running Ansys Cloud with various providers, and especially with Ansys Azure for some time now. Well, now they have an offering with AWS, Amazon Web Services, and it's called Ansys Gateway. And it's more than just, you can run Ansys on Amazon. It's Ansys within the AWS environment. And if you use AWS, which we do a little bit at PADT, and we have customers that use it quite a bit, that means being part of a huge ecosystem of lots and lots of software tools. So yes, it's dedicated CAE hardware to run Ansys on, HPC hardware designed to run our software quite well, like everybody else is doing, which is great, but it's also about being part of those stacks that AWS offers, where you can get access to all sorts of other software tools and integrate things. So, you can read the press release. Hopefully we'll have somebody on once it's a little bit further along and talk about it in more detail. But my big takeaway is that there's 3 reasons why you should take a look at this new Ansys gateway, the Ansys AWS gateway. One, if you want to build a customer-facing browser-based application that uses simulation behind the scenes, you should definitely check this out. So you've got all of the web hosting capabilities of AWS, all of the other tools for databases and login checking and paying for things and all that infrastructure that's there that, hundreds of thousands of web-based applications use all the time, that you can then put around your simulation-based application, customer-facing simulation-based application. The second, and I'm really excited about this, and it has been for some time, is one of the things that AWS has is really good machine learning, artificial intelligence, and what I prefer to call big data analytics tools. So there's all these stacks, all these tools that they bring to the table that people use to look at data. Well, in this case, we can create the data in Ansys and use it with the stack of tools that AWS has. So if you're an AWS user for these tools, you know what I'm talking about. This is kind of a big deal. And the last is really related, which is digital twins. So we all talk about digital twins. We all know the value of digital twins, the ability to create a digital mock-up that you and your customers can use to, do prediction, to do analytics, to do improvements in the performance of your products. Doing it on the AWS platform, of course, you don't have to provide your hardware to your customers, but also the customers have to provide their own hardware as well. It gives you access to all the other stuff that AWS got, that I've talked about, that AWS has to build a better digital twin. So if you want your customers to be able to use simulation to monitor and run their equipment, they can leverage all the IoT stuff and all the other things that AWS already has to do that. So pretty exciting. This is new stuff. This is exciting stuff. So, yes, if you're an AWS user and you want to run HPC on AWS, or it's a better platform for you than, say, Azure or some of the other HPC cloud platforms, go for it. That's a given. This comes with this, the ability to run HPC in the cloud using their hardware. But what it offers is everything else that AWS offers. And that's what's exciting, and that's what you should check out if you're interested in that sort of thing. Do reach out, if you are, to your Ansys support provider, and of course you can always reach out to us if you want more information on that as well. Okay, let's completely switch gears to optics and photonics. So some of you may or may not know that the University of Arizona has kind of been the number 1 or number 2 university for optics and photonics for many, many, many years. A lot of astronomy, a lot of laser, a lot of just optics type stuff, photonics and things like that. And because of that, a very large optics community and photonics community has grown up in Tucson around that. Many of them are PADT customers. We work with them not just for simulation, but lots of other things. Well, every year there's a big event before the international event in San Francisco for optics. And it's called, the event here is called AZ Photonics Week. And so people from around the world on their way to San Francisco for Photonics West in San Francisco stop by in Phoenix to see what's going on in what really is one of the top optical locations in the world. And this is the 4th time, I think, that I've been able to go, and I just learned so much. Really enjoyed it. Talked a little bit about PADT, but mostly I was there to learn. And I wanted to share a couple things with you folks that are relevant to the Ansys user community. And that's that optics have been and are more and more becoming part of other devices, right? So sensors are going into things. We're using fiber to communicate more and more. We're using lasers to do different things. So the separation between mechanical and electrical and optical is getting blurred. We're seeing more and more electro-optomechanical. I'm sure there's a better word for that, devices out there. And we talked a lot about that over the 3-day event and just saw example after example, whether it was in astronomy, a sensor to find in the near infrared. No, it was the ultraviolet, looking for planets orbiting around other stars. These new sensors are highly sensitive, and it's a multi-physics problem. It's not just optics, it's not just mechanical, it's not just electrical, it's all of them, and electromagnetic, it's all of them all together, and maybe even some fluid to keep it cool. So 3 takeaways I had at the end of the event that I thought were relevant for the simulation community. And the first is really heat. We're building smaller and more powerful optomechanical, optomechanical, whatever you want to call it, devices. You just have to look at your phone to see how much camera they're packing into that phone. Well, heat has an impact on optics. It has an impact on photonics, right? If you've got fiber optics or lasers of any kind, they generate heat. They need to be kept cool. The sensors that measure light of various kinds need to be kept cool. So it's really, really important. And, if your company is getting into this or already does this, definitely simulation is playing a bigger role in that. Second is the need for multi-physics to get more accuracy out of these assemblies, right? So because everything's getting smaller and more compact and more accurate, the sensors are getting more accurate, everything has to be more accurate in general. And that means that vibration and thermal disturbances screw everything up. So we as simulation people need to really work on doing a better job of building better systems that these optical devices sit inside of. And the third, and this is the one that I struggle with the most, because I'll be honest with all of you, just between us, I still don't understand it, and that's quantum mechanics. So Tucson is heading up the Quantum Computing Networking Initiative. So people are building these quantum computers, which have their own mechanical design and thermal design and electrical design and optical design issues, but they need to hook them together. And they're hooking them together using entanglement of photons going over fiber optic cables. And maybe at some point we'll get somebody on the podcast just to talk about it, because it's interesting, even if it's not directly related to simulation. But what I learned was the challenges they're facing are that these devices, including the networking devices, all run at extremely low temperatures, in the single-digit Kelvin temperature. So that's not easy to do. You got to use a lot of simulation to get that done right. Any bit of thermal noise or vibration noise throws everything off, because remember, with quantum mechanics, it's not a 0 or a 1, right? So you can't just say if it's above 5 volts or below 5 volts. If it's below 5, it's below 3.5 volts or whatever it is, 2.5 volts. It's a 0. If it's above 2.5 volts, it's a 1. No, you're measuring phases and magnitudes, and it's a statistical thing, right? So any noise throws everything off. It's not a 1 or a 0 anymore. So you have to be really, really accurate, and you have to have your thermal and structural isolation working really, really well. On top of that, they're using very high-powered lasers and very accurate and I guess you would say very precise frequency lasers. Again, simulation is going to play a huge role in this. We're just starting, just now trying to figure out how to do this. And we see a big need for simulation in that area. So if you're at all involved in this, in quantum computing at all, would love to hear from you. And if you're not, check it out. It's kind of cool. And I think it's going to impact a lot. Is it going to be as big as fiber optics is today? Quantum networking is as big as fiber optics, or digital computing? Will quantum computing be as big as digital computing? Yeah, probably not, but there are applications. And I'll leave you this one thought before I move on. You can use quantum computers to solve linear algebra, which is what most of our solvers are. So I'm really keeping my eyes open for, are there classes of simulation problems that can be solved faster using quantum computing than using our traditional methodologies now, our traditional solvers now. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. And let me know if you see anything. For today's commercial, I just want to do a short word on Ansys Cloud. We kind of talked about it already. I want to drive the point home because it plays a role in the whole AWS Ansys partnership, but it's also something that everybody should be looking at. So, just a question. Have you assessed your overflow and HPC needs? And Ansys Cloud is here now. It's working. We use it. Our customers use it. We're really happy with it. Even if maybe you want to look at something, it's not quite where you want it to be. Maybe you want to look at this AWS solution. You can start using Ansys Cloud today. You can get your feet wet and start building expertise on how to do it and what the ins and outs of it are, and figure out how to get things done faster and how to explore additional Ansys capabilities in the cloud rather than having the software local. So check it out if you haven't already. Everybody should have a good head around where Ansys Cloud fits into their company. If you don't and you want to learn more, please reach out to us or whoever you get your Ansys from, and we'd love to talk about it. Let's move on to Ansys stock. I thought about skipping this topic today because if anybody does follow the stock market, they know that it's not going well. It's been bad. It's been really bad. So let's just rip the Band-Aid off. So if you remember, if you listen to the last podcast, in late December, near the end of the year, Ansys hit some all-time highs. It was fantastic. Woohoo! Go Ansys. Then the market in general went down. Interest rates, inflation, instability in Russia, Ukraine, China, you name it. There's lots of reasons for the market to go down, supply chain, et cetera, et cetera. So the market went down, and so did Ansys. Like I said, in 12/27, they hit an all-time high of $411 a share, which is fantastic. Well, this past Friday, I'm recording this on Sunday, but on February the 4th, it closed at $327.79. Yeah, so it went from 411 to 327. And in fact, it actually dropped the whole, 25%. It went from 411 to 309 earlier in last week. So, it could be worse. So it went back up a little bit. Percentage-wise, since that peak of 12/27, the S&P, just for comparison, is down. S&P 500 is down 6.5%, and Ansys is down 20.5%. So it's definitely doing more than the S&P as far as the downside. If we look at the last 12 months, the S&P 500 is up 15.2%, and Ansys is down about 14% actually. So you can see that it's underperforming the S&P 500 right now. And if you listen to this podcast, I have no idea why, opinions why, nothing. I don't understand it. That's just the way it is. So just letting you know, that's where it is. The next meeting about the financial situation at Ansys, their what they call their investor meeting, is going to be on February 24th at 8:30, and they're going to go over all of 2021 and the fourth quarter, and they'll talk about the future as well. And this is where they talk about how well they actually did, not what the stock market did. I always recommend that any of you who make your living using Ansys, this is the one you should listen to every year. Just take some time. It's one hour, maybe about time, maybe 90 minutes sometimes. Just listen. You get to know what they care about, where they're going, what's important, what's not important. It's where they're going to spend their money, which really impacts us as users. So I highly recommend that on the 24th, you watch that, and I will, of course, cover it once it comes out. I'll listen to it and give you the summaries. So that's Ansys financials and stock. We'll see how they did for the year on February 24th. Ansys news-wise, nothing new. They've been very quiet. They haven't published anything actually of any value that matters really. They're hunkered down. PADT also doesn't have any news to share. We've been hunkered down, I think, beginning of the year, just kind of strategizing and getting things ready, ducks in a row. I will point out again for PADT that we are hiring in the Ansys world as well as in other parts of our company. So if you are interested in a technical position or a sales position with PADT, do check out our PADTinc.com website. Click on the careers, and you can see what we have posted right now. We have sales positions for Ansys around the southwestern U.S., enterprise as well as just normal account management. And then we've also looking for engineers who know optics, who know HFSS, who know structural. We're actually hiring right now, for those of you that are interested, a Flonex person. So our thermal fluids engineer. So Miles has been our lead guy. We have a couple of users as well, but Miles has been our lead application and pre-sales engineer and support engineer for that product. And we've grown our user base so much that he finally needs help. So if that sort of thing interests you, system level thermal fluid modeling, do reach out and apply for that job. job. We got a lot going on, a lot of openings. And if you don't see an opening that fits you, just go ahead and apply to the generic one. You never know if it might spark our interest. So a little plug there for working for PADT. Ansys blog. Let's take a look at that. One tool from Ansys that I really don't have a lot of exposure to is one called Medini, and it does safety simulation, which is definitely not my area of expertise. And I really found this blog post about how NXP is using Medini to look at the safety of the control systems they're designing. Like they're a chip manufacturer, right? So they're providing the electronics for these battery charging systems and engine management systems or electric motor management systems. So they use Medini to look at the safety of that. And it's called Ansys Streamlines NXP Semiconductor BMS Safety Analysis. I think that's battery module safety or something like that, or battery module system or something, BMS. Anyway, what they're really worried about is this thermal runaway that can happen when you're charging your car or you're using energy quickly. Check it out. It's a great example of what Medini is and how you use Medini. Really helped me understand it better. Also, if you watch the news, and you will remember a couple weeks ago, I can't remember exactly when it was, there was quite a kerfuffle out there in the news about aircraft refusing to land in some U.S. airports because 5G towers had been turned on and planes were going to fall out of the sky. It was Y2K all over again. It was going to rain, death raining from the heavens. Well, needless to say, that's not exactly what was going on. And the good news is, because HFSS is the tool that so many people use both on the 5G side as well as to design these sensors that these landing systems use, they're concerned about interference between the 5G bands and the similar bands that are used in the landing sensors. Well, check out this article. It's written from a perspective of an engineer. It's not clickbait, about what's really going on with this and why, of course, simulation can be used to see whether it's dangerous or not. And if it is, deal with it. And if not, what is safe and what's not. So it's check that out. It's called 5G and Aircraft Safety, How Simulation Can Help to Ensure Passenger Safety. Really enjoyed that. It was good. Share it with your friends too, because again, it's good information, real information. And then the last one that I really like and recommend that everybody read is Predict the Future with Ansys Twin Builder, kind of the same theme if you're looking at things like twin building and AWS and all these cool things we can do now. This has got some great examples of people doing real work. I think it's a heat exchanger that they look at using Twin Builder to help a customer understand and do predictive analytics on their product. So do check those blog articles out on the Ansys blog. On the PADT blog, we actually have an article to share. Doug Otis returns from his long hiatus of writing. We always enjoy reading Doug's articles because they are funny as heck, as well as very useful. For those that don't remember, Doug is one of our support engineers. He's actually a lead manager of one of our support teams for Ansys, and he's been doing Ansys support for longer than I think he wants to admit, and he knows more than he also he's too shy to admit. But he writes really good, useful, and humorous articles. And the latest one is called Hold My Beer, Spatially Varying Materials and Ansys Mechanical Made Easy. So if you want your material properties to vary spatially throughout your part, there's ways to do that. And he was challenged to make it simpler and easier. And so he asked someone to hold his beer, and he did that. And then he shared the results with everybody out there. So check that out. It's useful, very useful article. And then, and hopefully he'll do more of these Hold My Beer series where he's going to take a challenge that a user presented to him of how to do something better and figure out how to do it and share it with us. Then also the other article I want to point out is if 3D printing is of at all of interest to you. We got a lot of new 3D printers over the last 6 months or so here at PDT, and our very own Pam Waterman actually went through and took some really cool pictures and shared some amazing builds that we did using some of these new technologies, full color, very smooth surface finish, new, stronger materials, intricate assemblies, really neat stuff. So if you haven't checked that out, do so on our blog. And it's called New Year, New Cool Parts, printed at PADT. 3D printing is of at all of interest to you. We got a lot of new 3D printers over the last 6 months or so here at PDT, and our very own Pam Waterman actually went through and took some really cool pictures and shared some amazing builds that we did using some of these new technologies, full color, very smooth surface finish, new, stronger materials, intricate assemblies, really neat stuff. So if you haven't checked that out, do so on our blog. And it's called New Year, New Cool Parts, printed at PADT. And then as always, Miles is out there cranking away with Flownex usage posts. So every week he does another tip and a hint on how to use Flownex more efficiently. And he's got a couple more that he put up since the last time we talked. And that's it for our blog. Event-wise, we've got a webinar coming up, Simulation Best Practices for Heat Exchanger Design and Development. It's a webinar that we're doing on the 16th of February from 11 to 12 Arizona time. And as always, you can go to our website and go to the event page to check that out, or you can go to brighttalk.com and register directly there. And this will be a really interesting one if you're all involved in heat exchangers. And if you're here in Arizona, we would love to invite you to an Arizona Technology Council After 5 Tech Mixer. This is just basically a pizza party. We're not showing anything off. We don't have any demos or speeches or anything like that. It's just a tech mixer. It'll probably be in our parking lot because of COVID rather than inside. But everybody who's a member of the Tech Council or a non-member of the Tech Council is invited. It's a great way to meet people in the tech community. And that's going to be from 5:30 to 7:30 on the 24th of February. So we would love to see you there. We'll have some cool stuff to show and talk about, but mostly it's just about meeting people. So if you're around, check that out. And that's it. That's all I got on the calendar. I want to thank everybody for once again listening to our podcast. Please do tell other people about it. Please do subscribe to it wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter at www.p80tinc.com/opt-in so you get all sorts of Ansys and P80T news in your inbox. And do spread the word. And as always, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you for joining us for the All Things Ansys podcast, episode 105. As a reminder, this podcast is not affiliated in any way with Ansys Inc., and the opinions expressed are those of the people on the show only and not of their current or former employers. For more information, visit www.p80tinc.com/blog, and please share your thoughts and questions through an email to podcast@p80tinc.com. See you next time.